class, we were talking about sampling. Okay. How do we create a digital signal?
We have to convert an analog signal in order to create a digital.
And what do we do to the analog signal to create a digital signal?
Well, you have to get the analog signal, then you have to convert it, and then it becomes a digital signal.
Yo, man, what do you have to do to the digital signal to convert it? What changes must be made to the analog signal to convert it?
Dr. Cartwright.
Yes.
Are you talking about remember things with the arrow, or are you talking about the properties, the two properties?
I'm talking about how do you create a digital signal? I told you what a digital signal was. What do we need to do to an analog signal to make it digital?
You mean the auto multiply, something like that?
You folks don't listen very well. What is a digital signal? Let's ask a question a different way. What is a digital signal?
I wrote down a digital signal has two properties: discrete in time and then discrete in amplitude.
All right. All right. So what do we have to do? So we know what a digital signal is. A digital signal has what? Only specific times. Only specific values. Y values. So what do we need to do to an analog signal to make it digital?
You have to choose a certain part in time, and then you have to have a certain amount of values.
All right. What is that process of choosing specific values of time? What is that process called?
Sampling.
Thank you very much. It's called sampling. It's called sampling. We have to sample the analog signal. And what's the process called where we create specific Y values? What is that process called? We just mentioned this in passing. We haven't talked at length about it, but I mentioned it.
Say it again, please.
What is the process of creating specific values to Y values? What is that called? It is quantization. Quantization. I don't know if that's spelled right. Quantization. That may not be spelled right. Okay. That's the process of changing the Y values into specific values, a discrete number of values. All right, let's get back to sampling. because that's what we talked about mainly last class. We talked mainly about sampling. We said if we have a 1,000 hertz sine wave, okay, and we are sampling frequency is 4,000 hertz, then we have a sample signal, and that sample signal has then we created new frequencies, new sine waves with new frequencies, and this is where we ended last class. And we said last class we get back our original signal by passing the sample signal through a low-pass filter. What must be the cutoff frequency of this low-pass filter?
1,000 hertz.
All right, that's the very lowest. But the problem is we'll be changing 1,000 hertz. By how much? By how much would we change the 1,000 hertz? How much in amplitude would we be changing? If we made the cutoff frequency 1,000 hertz, how much will we change the amplitude of that 1,000 hertz?
2,000 hertz.
How much amplitude would we change? Let me. One, less than two. What is this I'm doing?
Is that the impulse train?
No, this is not the well. It is an impulse train, but not in the time domain. What is this called? This is not in the time domain. This is in the frequency domain. What is this called? What am I plotting here?
Sampling signal.
What about the sampling signal?
The sampling frequencies.
The sampling frequencies? No, there's only one sampling frequency. What's the sampling frequency?
Is that the 1,000 hertz? Killer. Yeah, 1,000.
Excuse me?
Is that the 1,000 hertz?
I don't know why y'all get these confused. Read the question. Do you have the question in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Read the question, please, and tell me what the sampling frequency is.
4,000 hertz.
4,000 hertz. So I'm not plotting the sampling frequency, am I? What am I plotting?
Wouldn't that be the sample signal then?
This is not a sampling signal. The sample signal. The sample signal looks. What does the sample signal look like?
Yeah, dots. Yeah, dots and stuff.
It looks like that. That's the sample signal. And we may put lines here. That's a sample signal. This is the sample signal. And this is in the time domain. What is this a plot of?
Sample frequency.
I just said the sampling frequency is 4 kilohertz. Didn't I just say that?
Yes, sir. Dr. Cartwright.
Yes.
Can you say that we're just plotting the frequencies of the sample signal?
And what is that called? I just told you last class, I reminded you last class what this was called. You did this in 320. You should have done it in 243 and in 400.
You mean spectrum?
You thought,
Exactly.
The frequency
Yes.
domain is called spectrum.
No, you see, you learned that wrong. You learn. Tell me what spectrum is.
Well, from my understanding, spectrum that allowed me to see the different frequencies. I guess from my
And different frequencies and their corresponding amplitudes. I'm just going to say all these is 1 volt. It's a plot of amplitude versus frequency. It tells me what frequencies are present. So this is telling me 1 kilohertz is present, 3 kilohertz is present, 5 kilohertz is present, etc. And it's telling me at what amplitude. We did all this, and yet 2 days later, you don't remember. This is the spectrum. This is the spectrum of the sample signal. Oh, that's figure 1. And this is figure 2. This is sample signal. Okay. Now, I only want this sinusoid. That's the only sinusoid I want. So what do? I pass this sample signal, which has all these frequencies, I pass it through a low pass filter. Okay? And there's my ideal low pass filter. There's my ideal low pass filter. So that I would cut off, ideally, I would cut off 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, all those, I would cut those off. But the problem is this, in the real world, we don't have an ideal filter. Okay. So in the real world, we got to deal with a filter that's doing that. Okay. So this would be the cutoff frequency of the filter. Okay. And you see, we would be stopping the 3K, we'd be stopping it by this much. Okay. The 5K would be stopping even more. The 7K would be stopping even more than that. Okay. So a reasonable place, but the problem is, when we make the cutoff frequency here, the truth of the matter is, this amplitude here is going to be how much down? What would be the gain at this amplitude here at the cutoff frequency? What would be the gain? This is now 410 coming. This is now the work we did is 320, 235, and 410 coming into play. How much will this amplitude change? At the cutoff frequency, how much will the amplitude change?
That'll be negative 3.
-3 apples.
Negative 3 dB.
-3 dB, yes. So if we made if we made the cutoff frequency 1,000, as somebody suggested, we'll be changing the amplitude of original signal. We'll be changing it by -3 dB, which we really don't want to do. So we don't want to make it 1,000, but we want to make the cutoff frequency between 1 and 3,000. Okay. The higher order the filter, the closer we get to 3,000 in the cutoff frequency. Because a higher order filter, would be doing, you can make the cutoff frequency here. A higher order filter will be doing that. Okay. So, but the thing is this, the cutoff frequency then, the cutoff frequency of that filter must be between 1 and 3. And this 1, remember, was FM, the maximum value of the frequency in our analog signal. And what was this value here? What was that frequency there? What was 3?
Was that FS minus FM?
Yes, FS minus FM. Okay. Okay. So we'd choose a cutoff frequency, probably about 2K. Probably about 2K. In this case, all right. Now, if you recall, low pass filter from 410. All right. Here's our FP. Here's our FS. What does FS mean? This is 410 now.
A sampling frequency?
Absolutely not. This is a filter. I'm asking you, this is, go back to 410. There was no sampling frequency in 410. That FS didn't mean sampling frequency. What did that mean? And this was 0 dB, right? And this could have been -40 dB. This is a magnitude response graph. What did FS stand for? Called the stop frequency. The stop frequency. That's the frequency at which we assume that the input signal has been completely stopped. If the frequency is above FS, actually, in this case, we call it -40 dB, we claim that there's no output, even though there's a little output. This is called a stop band, remember? This is a stop band. What was this called? What was this band here called? What was this band here called between 0 and FP? What was that called?
Bond pass?
Pass bonding.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
That's all.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I had to reboot my router for some reason. Okay. Who did I lose? I lost Mr. Kerr. Any of you got any of you can text Mr. Kerr?
I'll text him.
All right. Tell him I'm back online and I don't see him.
Yes, sir.
Oh, don't, never mind. He's doing it now. Okay. All right. Let me remind you of what we're doing. I am recalling for you, revising for you what a low pass filter specifications are. And let me redo this diagram on another page. So all of you got page 1. So review of low pass filter magnitude response. So in general, this is what a real world low pass filter looks like. This is the cutoff frequency, some kind we call FP. And this frequency here is called FS, the stop frequency. And this is the cutoff frequency. And this is 0 dB. And this could be any value we make it, maybe negative 40 dB. Okay. And this is the pass band. From 0 to FP, it's a pass band because those are the frequencies we're passing. And these are the frequencies we're stopping. That's a stop band. Okay. And between the pass band and the stop band is the transition band. Okay. And this FS has nothing to do with sampling frequency. Okay. Sometimes in electronics things are called by the same symbol, and you gotta use the context to determine is it referring to sampling frequency or is it talking about the stop frequency. All right, let's review. We're gonna need this in a few minutes. Now, let's go back to this. So to separate our original signal from the highest frequency, the lowest frequency in the sample frequency, other than the sample signal. That's the sample signal. The signal that's being sampled. Okay. We got to be able to separate these two. So what restrictions do we have on FS, the sampling frequency? What restrictions do we have on the sampling frequency? Well, this one here is FM, and then this one here is FS minus FM. And of course, to separate these two, what must be true? Okay. They can't be equal. This frequency here cannot be equal to this frequency here. Otherwise, we won't be able to separate them. So what must be true is FM must be less than FS minus FM. This frequency must be less than this frequency in order to be able to separate them with a low pass filter. Or another way of saying the same thing, 2FM is less than FS. Or another way of saying the same thing, the sampling frequency must be greater than twice the highest frequency in the signal being sampled. That's the key result. This must be true. That must be true. The sampling frequency must be greater than twice the highest frequency in the signal that's going to be sampled in our original analog signal. Sometimes you'll see equal sign there, but clearly it can't be equal. So the people who write equal sign there is not right. The sampling frequency must be greater than twice. Must be greater than twice the highest frequency. So, in our example then, in our example back here, what's our lowest sampling frequency? What's our lowest sampling frequency?
3,000 hertz.
How much?
3,000.
The sampling frequency, what is our lowest sampling frequency we can use?
I said 3,000 hertz.
Where you get that from?
Is it 1,000?
Why are you guessing? I just gave you the answer. Why are you guessing? I just told you the answer. Here's the answer right here. The sampling frequency must be greater than twice FM. What is FM?
FM is 1,000.
What is FM? FM is what, Mr. Johnson?
1,000 hertz.
So what is FS? What is the lowest FS I can have?
The lowest FM, it'd have to be either 2,000 or 3,000, something like that.
No, the lowest is 2,000. It has to be greater than 2,000. It could be any value greater than 2,000.
Uh-huh.
That's what this equation means. So in our example, I chose 4,000. So I chose more than the minimum, so that's called oversampling. That's called oversampling. If I choose less than the minimum, suppose I chose sampling for the same example. The same example. So 1,000 hertz sine wave to be sampled. Thousand hertz sine to be sampled. Fs equals 1,500 hertz. So what frequency will be present? What frequencies will be present in the sample signal?
As much as we want.
Don't talk fool. Give me the exact frequencies present in the sample signal.
We know for sure it could be 3,000 hertz
Why we know it's gonna be 3,000 hertz?
because it's supposed to be 2 FM, right? 2 times.
Oh, you're confusing the issue.
Gotcha,
You're
alright.
confusion. Go ahead.
This would be the same as writing FM and then writing FS minus FM, right?
Absolutely. I told you, see, we learned that, and now that we come to apply it to another problem, the same problem, y'all can't do it. Even though we just learned it last class, we reviewed it today, and now you still don't know it. What frequencies are present in the sample signal? And the answer is, here you go. These are the frequencies present in the sample signal. All I'm asking you is substitute what FM is and what FS is. That's all I'm asking you to do. The other question, you're confusing what frequencies are present. You're confusing that with what must the sampling frequency be if we want to be able to separate them by a low-pass filter later. And then that answer is the sampling frequency must be at least twice the highest frequency in the input. But that question is different from what are the frequencies present. So please, I hope that sorted that out. So what frequency is present in our sine wave? What frequency is present in our sample signal?
FS minus FM.
Well, let's begin with FM. That's 1,000 hertz. FM minus FS is how much? What's FS minus FM?
500 hertz.
Yeah,
500 hertz. 500 hertz. All right.
Yeah,
FS plus FM.
2,500.
2,500 hertz. 2FS minus FM.
2,000 hertz.
2,000 hertz. 2,000 hertz?
Yes, sir.
Yes, 2,000 hertz. 2FS plus FM.
4,000 hertz.
4,000 hertz. Now, when we try to pass it through a low-pass filter, when we pass the sample frequency through a low-pass filter, what low-pass filter we use? We can use the cutoff frequency. We can use the cutoff frequency. Okay. That is half of the sampling frequency. Like I just showed you. Okay. Last example, we would the cutoff frequency would have been 2,000, ideally. The sampling frequency was 4,000. So what frequencies will apply when we pass this through? When we pass the sample signal, through a low-pass filter and the cutoff frequency, low pass with omega C, with FC equals 750 hertz. What will we get? We'll get 500 hertz. So even though our original signal was 1,000 hertz, Because we are undersampling now. This is undersampling. That's undersampling because what? What is the minimum frequency we should be sampling at?
$500
Where you get 500 hertz from? Folks, tell me, what is the minimum sampling frequency? I just told you this 10 minutes ago. What is the minimum sampling frequency?
2000.
1,000 hertz.
2,000, not 1,000. 2,000. That's the minimum. And if we use less than the minimum, why is it 2,000? Because FS is greater than 2 FM. And FM is 1,000. So FS should be 2,000 minimum. But instead, I'm going to use 1,500 hertz. I'm going to use less than the minimum. And what do I retrieve? I don't get this back because that's greater than 750. I get back 500 hertz. So my original signal of 1,000 hertz, when I pass the sample frequency, the sample signal through the low pass filter, I retrieve 500 hertz. I don't retrieve my original signal. I retrieve 500 hertz. And this is called an alias. This is called an alias for original. So that's why undersampling doesn't work. Undersampling doesn't work because you had 1,000 hertz, but when you retrieve it, it looks like 500 hertz, all because you undersampled. And how do we know we're undersampling? Because the sampling frequency must be at least twice the highest frequency in the original signal. Are we still confused about this? Let's do an example. Let's do a piece by example. Right. What happened to that? I had all those. There we go. Why don't I see those? All right, give me a second. Oh, it's not there. I sent you this email. They sent that last night, probably. Oh, there we go. Yesterday afternoon. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. Demonstration of undersampling. I think this is yesterday afternoon. Well, I was supposed to do another one before this, but anyway, since we're here, let's deal with this. Let me show you what we got here. This is my original signal. This is my 1,000 hertz sine wave, 1 volt. Okay, that's signal I want to sample. I want to sample that. V1 I want to sample. I'm sampling V1 by V2. V2 it's a sampling signal, and the output is the sampled signal. I pass my sample signal through a low pass filter. The cutoff frequency is 4,000 hertz. By the way, can you tell what the okay, you won't be able to tell that yet. Okay, the period of the sampling signal is 125 microseconds. That's a period. So the sampling frequency is 8,000 hertz. The sampling frequency is 8,000 hertz. The signal to be sampled is 1,000 hertz. The sampling frequency is 8,000 hertz. My cutoff frequency, therefore, is 4,000 hertz. And the stop band begins at 4,400 hertz. That's why I had a reminder of the low pass filter for you, because that's how low pass filter in PSpice works. And then this is just gain. So what should happen here is, at this point here, I should see the sample signal. Okay, I pass it through a low pass filter, and I pass it through some gain, and I get back what? I should get back my original signal. Okay. And there it is. There it is. What do you see? Okay. You see the red. What's the red? That's my original. Okay. That's my original input signal. What's the green? What is the green? The green is my sampled signal. Okay. Is the green a digital signal? Is the green a digital signal?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, what did you say?
I said yes, sir.
What are the two properties of digital signal?
I know one is that it has a finite number of values.
And does the green have a finite number of values? Does the green have a finite number of Y values?
Oh, no, sir.
No, it doesn't. So the green is not a digital signal. It's a discrete time signal, but it's not a digital signal. Why not? Because we have not quantized the green levels. All right. So that's a little review in there. What's the blue? The blue is the output of the filter. And what do you see the blue is? The blue is just the delayed version of the red. We get back our original sine wave, although the low pass filter causes some delay, which we can't do anything about. So this demonstrates that sampling, okay, you pass a sample signal through low pass filter, and if you sample right, you'll get back your original signal. Now, let's go to a bad case. Now, same circuit, except we change our input signal to 5,000. Our input signal is 5,000. Okay. Cutoff low pass filter is the same. Okay. Sampling frequency is the same, 8,000. What is, if I have an input signal of 5,000, what is the minimum I should be sampling at?
10,000 hertz.
10,000, but I'm sampling at 8,000. And what happens? Let's see what happens. All right. There's my red. There's my red. Okay. That's my original signal, 5,000 hertz. Okay. There's my green, the sampled version of that, of the red. And then there's my blue. My blue is the output of the low pass filter. And what has happened? Look at the period of the blue. The period of the blue is different from the period of the red. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Looking at the wrong one. Red is my original 5,000. See, red is my original 5,000. The green is the sample version of the red. And look at the blue. Can't you see that the blue period is longer than the red period? So the blue that I recovered, is at a lower frequency. As a matter of fact, can you tell me what frequency that is that I recovered? What frequency is it that I recovered? What is the frequency of blue?
I don't know the frequency, but I know 1 minute.
Yes, you do know the frequency. You're just too lazy to work it out. I gave you all the tools to work it out. The input is 5,000. The sampling frequency is 8,000. So what frequencies are present in the sample signal? What frequencies are present in the sample signal? Oh.
You ask them what frequency of present, you can minus the 2 to 8,000.
Nobody can.
5,000, you get 3,000. That's one.
Yeah, working it out.
Again?
Right.
What else is present? No, tell me. You don't work it out. Tell me, work it out. Tell me how you work it out.
Okay, FM, that would be 8,000. And then you have FM, you have FS minus FM. That'll be 3,000.
No, FM is not. What is FM, young man?
5,000, sorry.
Emmanuel, fuck. If you just read the caption tells you sampling of 5 kilohertz sine wave with an 8 kilohertz. Okay. Back. Okay. So FM is how much?
5,000 kilohertz. I mean 5,000 hertz.
FM is how much? By the much? FS is how much?
FS,
8,000.
yeah, 8,000 hertz.
The sampling frequency. Okay. So what frequency is present in my sample signal?
So you got 5,000, and then you got the FS minus FM, which is 3,000. And then you got FS plus FM, which is 13,000.
We got FM.
FM is 5,000 hertz.
Yeah, what else?
Then you get the FS, what is 8,000. I mean, you can put 3,000 as the first one.
What?
Oh, I thought he was going in order.
Are you not looking at my screen?
Yeah, he's saying you was having a little delay. FS is 8,000 hertz.
What's the next? Oh, well, that ain't my fault. So what's the next frequency in the sample signal?
Which frequency you on right now? Or what was the last frequency we said?
What?
3,000.
Can you see, young man, can you see my screen?
It freezing, Dr. God, right?
It have a delay, so we ain't sure which one you on. That's why I asked you what your last one was.
Oh. My last one's FS plus FM.
Oh, all right.
He said was only seeing 8,000.
Okay, now
Everybody has a delay?
That's up.
Yes, lagging.
your screen say FS plus FM dot cut, right?
All right, so I'm caught up now.
Yeah,
So
now
what's the next frequency?
11,000.
2FS. I wish you'll tell me what the equation is, so that I know that you understand the principle.
Yeah, that's 2FS minus FM.
All right. So now we're gonna pass the sample signal. We're gonna pass the sample signal through what low pass filter? What's the cutoff frequency? What's the color frequency I've used in that P-Spice experiment? Yes, 4,000.
Because it twice, yeah.
Okay. So what's my output going to be? What am I going to get out here? After I pass it through a low pass filter, what am I going to get? Which of these frequencies I'm going to get?
You can get 3,000.
I'm going to get 3,000. So how come y'all told me you can't figure out how come y'all told me? Y'all see my figure 3?
Yes, I see figure 3.
All right. So how come y'all couldn't tell me what the frequency of that blue signal is? It's 3,000 hertz.
I did say that, no.
You said 3,000 hertz?
Yes, that's when I said you subtract the 8,000 hertz from the 5,000 hertz.
Well, all I heard is Mr. Israel saying, Mr. Johnson saying, he know what it is. I told him he was too lazy to figure it out. Well, if you said it, more power to you. Okay. All right. What's the moral of the story? Let's summarize this part of the lesson. This part of the lesson is very simple. There's a minimum frequency at which you can sample. Now, what is that minimum frequency? What is that minimum frequency you can sample?
2 times FM.
2 times FM. If you sample below that, if you use a sampling frequency below that, you will get an output, but that output will not be the original signal. That output will be called an alias of the original signal. And that alias is usually FS minus FM. Okay. If you sample at the correct frequency, your output, your retrieved sine wave will be at the same frequency as your original. That's the moral to the story. All right. Are we clear on that? Any questions about that? All right. Now I want to go back and cover sampling in detail in P-Spice. You see my figure 1.
I see figure 1.
All right. In P-Spice, it's called the V-pulse diagram. The V-pulse voltage. The V-pulse voltage. All right. So this has 2 different values. V1 for our purposes is going to be 0, and V2 is going to be 1. V2 is 0. Okay. Because what we're going to do with this, is create our sampling signal. Recall our sampling signal is this. What kind of signal was this called? What was the signal called? This is our sampling signal. Somebody gave me this earlier.
Is that the impulse train? Is that the impulse train?
Yes, yes. Now, why can't we put this in a PSpice? Well, not just PSpice. What do you know about this impulse? No, I take that back. What should you know about this impulse? All right. How wide is this impulse? How wide is this impulse? It amazes me how y'all don't retain any knowledge from previous classes.
And it's TS.
No, how wide? This, look at one impulse. Look at one impulse. How wide is that impulse? All right. Let me ask the question another way. Define the impulse signal for me. This is 320. This is 320 biting you in the ass. What's delta T equal to? Delta T equals 1. T equals 0. Delta T equals infinite. When T is not equal. No, sorry, the other way. Delta T equals infinity. T equals 0. Delta T equals 0. When T does not equal 0. So how wide is this? How wide is it? 0 wide. How high is this? It is infinitely high, but it has, nonetheless, it has an area of 1. We talked about all this in 320. So we cannot generate this. Cannot generate this in real life or in PSpice. Instead, we can approximate this. How did we approximate this in 320? How do we approximate that in 320?
Did we use Octave?
Excuse me?
Did we use Octave to approximate it?
Yo, man, what did we do in Octave to approximate this? Octave is just a program. We had to program the program. How did we program the program? What did we do? Dr. Godwright, I can't even remember what we did last class. You expect me to remember what we did last semester? Yes, I do expect you to remember.
Does it have something to do with a step function?
We approximate this by an impulse. So we're going to approximate this impulse train by a pulse train. And to approximate this exactly, if this is a y, then this height will be 1 over a, so that the area would be 1. But that's not what we're going to do today. We're going to make this. We can make this amplitude 1. Okay, amplitude 1. This amplitude is 0, and we're going to use a V pulse. We're going to use a V pulse to approximate this. This approximates that. And this V and this waveform here can be approximated in PSpice, except that this rise time can't be infinite. So we're gonna so V pulse does the red. V pulse gives us the red. And let's go back and look at V pulse again. So clearly then, and the TD, looking at figure 1, everybody can see figure 1?
I see it.
All right. TD is just a time delay, okay? And we all we're doing is offset the pulse from the origin. That's all we're doing, okay? So you see what's happening is, in this diagram, we want to make TR and TF. TR is the rise time, TF is the fall time, okay? We want to make them very small. We want to make them very small compared to the period, PW. PW is not a period. PW is the pulse width. And we want to make the pulse width, very small compared to the period. So keep that in mind as we go to this next handout I sent you. There it is. There it is. So my frequency to be sampled, I'm looking at figure 2 of this handout. Everybody see figure 2 of this handout?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My input sine wave is at 1,000 hertz. Okay. My TD, my time delay, my sampling signal is V2. And V2 and PSpice is V pulse. And my time delay is 30 microseconds. Okay. And my rise time is 0.1 microsecond. And my full time is 0.1 microsecond. And my pulse width is 1 microsecond. 1 microsecond. And the period is 125 microseconds. So a period of 125 microseconds corresponds to a frequency of 8,000 hertz. Right. So my amplitude is 1 for this pulse. My amplitude is 1. Okay. For 1 microsecond, it is 0 for 124 microseconds. So that's my sampling signal. That's this. As you can see, well, you can't tell that's 1 microsecond, but if you zoom in on it, you'll see it is 1 microsecond. You see the time delay here.
You could scroll back up to that next graph, please.
No, I want this graph here in figure 4. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about figure 4. We're not talking about a nice graph above.
Right.
This is why y'all get in trouble, because you do your own thing while I'm explaining something else. I will scroll back up to that, but not right now. I'm showing you the sampling signal. The sampling signal, figure 2. It's 1 for 1 microsecond. It is 0 for 124 microsecond, because the period is 125 microseconds. Any questions about how the sampling signal is generated? Now, when I multiply the input, by this sampling signal, I get the sample signal, as we now see in figure 3. Here's my input, figure 3. The red in figure 3. That's my input signal. I multiply the red by the sampling signal, and what do I get? I get the green. And what is the green? The green is my sampled signal. The green is not a digital signal. The green is simply a discrete time signal, because we have not quantized the values of the green yet. Any questions about that? And I sent you this handout. All right. What am I looking at in figure 5? What am I looking at in figure 5?
The spectrum of the input, the signal waveform.
The signal waveform, what does that mean? What does the signal waveform mean?
Are you referring to the green output?
So you don't think the green output is the spectrum? It says we're plotting amplitude versus frequency. Isn't that a spectrum graph? Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
All right. What's the green? The green is the spectrum of the sampled signal. The green is the spectrum of the sample signal, and you can't see it very well because it's a lot smaller. It is a lot smaller than my original my original input sine wave. My input sine wave is at 1 volt, and the sample signal is, I didn't tell you this earlier, so listen careful. The sample signal amplitude is actually at the average value of this waveform here, the sampling signal. What's the average value of this waveform? Over a period, what's the average value? What's the average value? Yeah, we did this in 320. All right, let me stop sharing for a second. I remind you of the green. Go on for 1 microsecond. And it's off for 124 microseconds. Sampling signal. And this is 1. And how do we find the average value of a periodic waveform? How do we find the average value of a periodic waveform? Well, I probably said this to you before, but you better think, God,
908.
let's see. 0? You think the average value is 0?
No, ain't
1
gonna
for
matter.
1 microsecond and 0 for 124 microseconds, and you think the average of that is 0? Let me refresh your memory. The average value is the area. The average is the area on the VFT divided by the period. So in this case, the area is 1 micro divided by the period 1 micro. So this is the average value. 1 over 25. Eight millivolts.
I'm not close to 0.
And again, this is 320. So I hope you've seen the day. Excuse me? And that's a relative thing. Close to 0 is a relative thing. Mathematically, it's infinitely far from 0. Now, from a real world point of view, okay, depends what signals you are interested in. you might be able to say it's 0, but in this case, we can't say it's 0. And then some waveform would disappear. Remember what I said. Okay.
Dr. Cartwright, what was said in the numerator? Phi average equals. I wanted to know what was said in the numerator.
Excuse me?
I wanted to know what was written in the numerator of phi average equals to. I know this area.
The area under the area under VFT.
Yes, sir.
Well, the only deal with VFT, what else could it be area of? Let's go back here. This is what we're talking about. You're applying the spectrum of two things. By the way, how do you do that? And PSpice, how do you plot the area? Sorry, in PSpice, how do you plot the spectrum?
It was a special button.
Yes, what was that special button called?
FFT or something like that.
FFT, very good. Fast Fourier transform. Fast Fourier transform. Again, you should remember from 320. Define the frequencies present in a periodic signal. Use the Fourier series. The frequencies present in a aperiodic signal. Use the Fourier transform. Again, 320 and 410 in this class. Now you're finding out you didn't learn 320 very well. You didn't learn 410 very well. All right. We'll pick this up next class because I don't want to rush through this. So remind me to begin with this document next class.
Figure 5. All right.
Dr. Carter, before you leave, I wasn't able to get some of the pages.
Well, young man, you need to get them from your friend.
I can see the last one, please.
You can see the last one, but that's it. I ain't putting out all these pages for you.
Y'all have the previous pages, right? All right, no problem.
So
Hey, Dr. Carter, when your office hours is for Stern.
I'll post it soon.
All right. I was only having some issues with my PSpice.
Different issues than before, or what?
I trying to install it now.
Oh, follow the directions exactly. For some reason, students think they can take shortcuts in installing it. Read all of them exactly. Because that's all I'm going to do. That's all I'm going to do